We're just gonna play a TikToks. I just looked up Jubilant Sykes on here because that's where I found out. Someone in the comment section, I made a video. It's connected to a video about Rob Reiner, and someone's like, the day after, it wasn't the day after. Nick killed Rob on December 14th. Micah killed Jubilant on December 8th, Sinead O'Connor's birthday. I know her, so we're gonna play her.
So I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say that we are starting to see a pretty disturbing pattern emerge. This is our third headline like this in about a week's time. Not to mention the several times that it's happened this year alone. There was cases like this came up in September. There was a case that came up in April. It really seems like one of the most horrifying and grotesque ways to go is being taken off the earth by your own child. Rest in peace, Robin Michelle Reiner. Rest in peace, Jubilant Sykes. Rest in peace, Franz and Teresa Kraus. And as horrible as this has been, we do have to talk about why it's happening and at least put forth some hypotheses as to what we're really dealing with. Because as I was reading the headlines, I noticed that every single time one of these headlines pops up, there's usually some mention of mental health issues or substance abuse issues. It's a little problematic to link it so strongly to mental health and substance abuse issues. Because we mostly tend to do this with men. Like,
I'm just pausing to say, especially when it's men. And I don't mean when we do that to men, I mean the demographic that is the issue we keep. What? It's not based on race or yeah, it is based on sex. Men are a fucking problem. Until they stop being a problem, acknowledge that they're the fucking problem. Their testosterone put onto women, the fucking invited hormone. Get the fucking invited in control without putting it off on other people. Father's killing son, son's killing father story seems to be a theme. Like we're gonna play our repost after this. Oh, that wasn't the plan. About the mother who's divorcing her husband because he doesn't love his stepson, who he's known since he was a year old. I gotta tell you, that man wouldn't have loved his own son either. The amount men are jealous of their children because their wives put the children first. So very fucking ridiculous.
when it comes to women committing heinous crimes like this, which first of all happens extremely rarely compared to how often men do it. So that's like hint number one, that it really has nothing to do with mental health issues. Plenty of women have mental health issues. Plenty of women struggle with substance abuse and addiction. So I think it's problematic to say that because we usually only say it when it comes to men, almost as if to absolve them of any actual responsibility. Secondly, it's problematic to ascribe something to mental health or addiction issues when it clearly has to do with something that's more gender-based, because once again, we're not seeing women commit crimes like this on the regular.
We're just pausing to correct that because no, it is not gender-based. If it was gender-based, it wouldn't be across culturally in almost all societies, right? It's sex-based. It's the male, the testosterone made by the testicles, right? Nothing to do with gender, which is a social construct, right? When someone's born with those and we treat them like a boy and we're like tough and hard and right, that's gender. And yeah, and it's something to do with it, but cross-culturally, the murder, the gang rape, it's a sex thing. A literal testosterone malehood thing.
We're not seeing this pattern emerge with women. We're seeing this pattern emerge with men. And so my hypothesis is that this has something to do with the patriarchy. It's like a snake that's going to eat its own tail every single time. This is why I say that the patriarchy, toxic masculinity, all of those things are a rake that men just keep stepping on over and over again, thinking that it's going to save them somehow, thinking that it's not going to backfire on them. And then when they get hit in between the eyes with that rake, they don't know who to be mad at. Because after the last couple of years we've had with Roe v. Wade being overturned, with abortion being made illegal in a lot of states, with women actually being persecuted for having abortions, miscarriages, etc., with the whole your body, my choice thing, DEI initiatives being overturned, social safety nets that affect mostly women and children being defunded. I really think that men thought that all of these things would somehow make their lives better automatically. I really think that they were let down by the patriarchal promise of, once we subjugate women, you guys can thrive. You guys can just have whatever you want. Like, men will rule the earth, so to speak. None of that is happening, because the reality is there are no jobs out there. Everything is expensive. Education is becoming a luxury. Traveling abroad is becoming a luxury. Owning a house is becoming a luxury. And all of those things are the result of a patriarchal society, of course, combined with capitalism. But capitalism is just a new word for general financial oppression of the masses. I think that the more some of these men realize that they are just part of the masses, like even as Nepo babies, they're probably still never going to get the same opportunities as their parents. And they're just living in a world where things are taken away from everybody every single day. We lose something that we used to have access to, that we used to not even question or think about, like clean air, clean water, etc. Like now all of these things are becoming a luxury little by little by little. And not only that, but it's also about like proving your masculinity, right? Now that women are
I'm gonna need to know why why put a candy in my mouth if we're talking, why Will Smith went up and slapped Chris Rock, right? Because of his ego, because of his dick, because he felt his white, right, you know what I mean, all that on camera. And yet no one, right? Bob Saget's roast and Rob Reiner's roast, joking about molesting and raping their own children in Hollywood. No one walked up and slapped whoever was saying it. You know what I mean? About your own kids. Just joking, just laughing along. It's so fucking weird and gross.
seen as generally oppressed and like even more as like second class citizens than before. It's like the only place left for men to become validated in their masculinity and prove their masculinity by conquest or by force or by violence is going to be around other men, because women are no longer seen as like their biggest threat. Men know that just overturning those couple laws has made women second class citizens. You can't deny that. We don't have rights to our bodies, and the government is allowed to persecute us for having a miscarriage or having an abortion, making decisions for our own bodies. So a lot of men have moved off of this need to like conquer or keep them in line, because the government is now doing that for them. What the men fail to realize is that this is not going to open up a sea of opportunities for them. This is actually narrowing their path as well, because they thought they were going to move up in the hierarchy, but really everybody just moved down. Men actually have more to prove to other men now, that women aren't there to be sort of the hierarchical scapegoat. So who becomes the hierarchical scapegoat? It's their father. Just another way to prove your ultimate masculinity is to unalive your dad. It's to like take out the man who fathered you or whatever. So please stay safe out there. Godspeed. So I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say that we are starting to see a pretty disturbing pattern emerge. This is our third headline. Like,
life is painful, excruciating. So.
Grammy-nominated singer Jubilant Sykes stabbed to death. The primary suspect, his own son. The renowned baritone was 71 years old.
He always tried to help people. And this is why I don't understand why this could happen to a good man like this.
Police tell ET the attack happened Monday evening at Jubilant's home in Santa Monica, California.
The reporting party is also the wife and mother involved inside the home.
Yeah, authorities tell CBS LA it was Jubilant's wife of nearly 40 years, Cecily, who called for help. When first responders arrived, they pronounced Jubilant dead at the scene. His 31-year-old son, Micah, was found inside the residence and surrendered without a fight. His bail set at $2 million. The cause of the killing is still under investigation.
The son did have a history with mental illness. However, we're unsure at this stage if that was related to what tragedy took place last night.
There likely are years and years of dynamics that played into something like this.
Jubilant had 2 other boys, both grown and a successful career on stage. He collaborated with celebs including Julie Andrews, Josh Groban, Carlos Santana, and the late Brian Wilson. And he performed on some of the world's most prominent stages, including Carnegie Hall in New York City. That's where he appeared as the celebrant in Leonard Bernstein's Mass in 2008.
Life is painful, excruciating. So.
Grammy nominated.
The police confirming this morning that it's 71-year-old Jubilant Sykes here of Santa Monica. We're told that he was a beloved and world-renowned opera singer and loved throughout his faith community. Everyone tonight and today is shocked. Now, this was the scene around 9:30 last night as police arrived. A 911 call came from someone inside saying that there was a violent assault. When officers arrived, they walked into the home and found a bloody scene. They were led to the victim, who was on the ground suffering from traumatic injuries. He was pronounced dead by paramedics. Another man inside the house was immediately taken into custody. We now know it was 31-year-old Micah Sykes and is cooperating with police. At this point, investigators are not revealing much about what happened here or what led up to his death. Jubilant Sykes was a well-known American musician. We spoke with his friends from his faith community this morning who are shocked and devastated.
Jubilant was a singer beyond words. He sang all around the country, opera, and he was so beautiful, and he would just walk from here 2 blocks over down the hill and say, Pam, I need space. Can I sing in the sanctuary? I said, sure.
He was willing to help everybody. He was just a good man. He was a good singer.
No idea. Why does someone's son kill them? Don't we collectively have psychosis around it? Interesting.
And I know he's going to heaven.
The police confirming this morning that it's
It's been the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life.
Influencer Paul Kim.
This is the other Micah who died on December 31st, and his dad has turned him into an angel slave. The middle, they have 3 older children, Micah, and now all of a sudden Micah's the religious one amongst their children when he wasn't even featured in the religious content like the older kids were. We're going to watch Micah in the Bible after. That's what we're here for.
Kim's son has passed away. The content creator's young son, Micah, died on December 31st, 2025, after contracting a severe case of the flu, according to his father, who maintains a following of over 300,000, sharing videos about his Catholic faith. He said in a video posted to Instagram January 1st,
Yesterday on December 31st, 2025, after fighting 11 long, hard days, Micah went home to the house of our father. We're so proud of him. And guys, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart as his dad, on behalf of my family, for all the ways you guys prayed and lifted us up during this time, this incredibly difficult, impossible time for our family. It's been the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, and it continues to be.
Kim first revealed his son's hospitalization in a December 21st Instagram post, writing, "My son Micah is having a medical emergency right now and headed to the hospital in an ambulance. Please pray for his healing. Thank you." The following day, singer Gwen Stefani shared a message of support on an update post by Paul, writing, "Praying for you." Micah was just 5 years old.
I do not know Gwen Stefani's birthday off by heart, so I don't know if I've looked it up before, but it's October 3rd, Mean Girl Day. And will that stick? Absolutely not. All right. Let's go in here. I don't know if I have the proper thing. Copy and pasted. Let's hope. Oh, there we go. All right. So, Bible, Book of Micah summary. I watched the first minute, or it's talking about, the splitting up of Israel. May 11th, 2016. Let's see what we can learn. Have we grown up? Has humanity grown up since biblical times, right? Might we be still experiencing some of these same human problems in the current age? Nah.
The book of the prophet Micah. Micah lived in a small town named Moreshet in the southern kingdom of Judah, about the same time as Isaiah. And both the northern and southern kingdoms of Israel had split long ago, and both had been violating their covenant with the God of Israel. So Micah warned that God would bring the big bad empire of Assyria to take out the northern kingdom and come ravage Jerusalem. And he also warned that after them, Babylon would bring an even greater destruction. Like all the prophets, Micah spoke on God's behalf to accuse Israel, or as he puts it in chapter 3, I am filled with strength, with the Spirit of God, with justice and power to declare how Israel has rebelled. And so most of this book explores Micah's accusations and his warnings of God's judgment on Israel. But Micah also had a message of hope that countered these warnings about the restoration God would bring on the other side of his judgment. And if you dive into the book with us, you'll see how this works. So the first two sections of the book develop Micah's accusations and warnings against Israel and its leaders. So part 1 opens with the poetic description of God appearing over Israel, just like he did at Mount Sinai. There's fire and smoke and earthquake. But he hasn't come to make a covenant this time. He's come to bring his judgment on Israel for over 500 years of rebellion. Micah goes on to name all of these towns and cities in Israel that are the culprits of all of this rebellion. God's coming for them. But why exactly? So Micah picks a fight with Israel's leaders. He says that they've become wealthy through theft and greed. He alludes to the story of Ahab stealing a family vineyard from Naboth in 1 Kings chapter 21. But also it's because Israel's prophets are corrupt. They're quite happy to offer promises of God's protection to anyone who can afford to pay them. No, Micah says, God has withdrawn his protection from Israel. In the second section of accusations, Micah describes even more how Israel's leaders and prophets have together committed grave injustice. They run the land through bribery, they bend justice to favor the wealthy, and the poor are deprived of their land, their security, and their hope. And all of this is a violation of the laws of the Torah, which declare it illegal to sell land that belongs to families, even if they're poor. And so we find out that God's judgment is going to take the form of an oppressive nation that comes to take out the northern kingdom and Jerusalem and its temple, which will be reduced to ruins. Now, these are very stiff warnings, and they're not the final word. Each of these warning sections is concluded with a striking promise of hope. So first is a poem about how God is like a shepherd who's going to rescue and regather his flock, which is the remnant of his people, and he's going to bring them all back to good pasture and become their king once more. The second warning section is concluded by picking up this image of the ruined Jerusalem temple. And Micah says this won't be permanent. One day, God is going to exalt his temple. He's going to fill it with his presence and fill the city with the remnant of his people. And so God's purpose is to make Israel the meeting place of heaven and earth, so that all nations will stream to Jerusalem, where God becomes the king of all the nations, bringing peace to the earth. Now, these two concluding poems of hope, they're very powerful. And the next section of the book actually develops them further in a beautifully designed series of poems that are entirely about the future hope of Israel and the nations. So we learn that after the Assyrian attack, Israel will be conquered and exiled to Babylon. But from there, God will restore his people and bring them back to their land. And then we learn that in the New Jerusalem, a new messianic king from the line of David will come. He'll be born in Bethlehem and then rule in Jerusalem over the restored people of God. Finally, in this messianic kingdom of God, the faithful remnant of God's people will become that blessing among the nations. But at the same time, God will bring his final justice and remove evil from his world. The final section of the book returns to this pattern of warning followed by hope that we saw in the first parts of the book. So Micah exposes again the unjust economic practices of Israel's leaders and how it's destroying the land and its people. And here Micah offers his famous words that summarize what it means for Israel to follow their God. He has told you, O human, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. This is exactly what Israel has not been doing, and so they will come to ruin. However, the book ends with another powerful note of hope. Israel is personified as an individual who's sitting alone in shame and defeat. It's a clear image of Israel's destruction and exile. And this individual is watching for God's mercy, and he begs God to listen and forgive. But why? Why should God listen to and forgive this faithless and rebellious people? Well, the poet offers two reasons. First, he says, because of God's character. Who is a God like you, who forgives sin and pardons rebellion? He knows that God's mercy is more powerful than his anger or his judgment. And the second reason is because of God's promises. He says, you will stay true to Jacob and show covenant love to Abraham as you swore so long ago.
Pause it because I'm going to say it at the end, but then they said Jacob, so why not? Jacob is the person who goes on to become Israel. The name Israel, wrestled with God. Ego monkey Jacob, you know what I mean? He stole his brother's inheritance. His wife, Rachel McAdams, and Leah. Anyway, it's almost like someone's trying to get her attention or something.
Now, these are the final words of the book. They're an allusion to God's covenant promises to Abraham and his family all the way back in the book of Genesis, that all nations would find God's blessing through Abraham's family. But to become a blessing to the nations, Israel must first be faithful to their God. And so this explains this back and forth between judgment and hope in the book of Micah. If God's going to bless the nations through Israel, then he must confront and judge the evil among his people. But his judgment is what leads to hope. Because God's covenant love and promise are more powerful than human evil, and his ultimate purpose is not to destroy, it's to save and redeem. Or as the concluding lines of the book put it, God delights in covenant love, so he will again show compassion. He will trample our evil. He will toss our sins into the depths of the sea. And that's what the book of Micah is all about.
All right, did I register any of that? No, but future me might. I don't know. Maybe when it's relevant again. Maybe a third Micah will come up. Father, sons. Did it say? Was he a father or a son? I don't think so. Or it wasn't mentioned. It wasn't important, right? Who cares if you have children? All right, I'm gonna end this here.